I'm Jay Moran.
I'm Bridget Jaipal Valenza.
I'm Thomas O'Neill White.
I'm Angeli Preston.
We need to get together and let our voices be heard.
This is What's Next, a dedicated hour to have important conversations about the issues facing the marginalized and underrepresented communities of Western New York and Southern Ontario.
We're going to have some real healing. We've got to have space to tell some uncomfortable truth.
What's Next continues our mission to discuss race,
Equity,
And the common concerns of Buffalo's East Side and beyond.
In the suburban area, everywhere, we must work and teach our children.
And good morning. Welcome to What's Next. My name is Jay Moran, and on this Native American Heritage Month, we are continuing our focus on just that, issues related to Native Americans. We have come to understand that the Lakeshore Central School District, 15% of its student population identify as Native Americans. It's over 300 students, as a matter of fact, and that is going to be an anchor for our conversation with three guests this morning. With us, we have Jordan Cooke Sr. Jordan teaches the Seneca language inside the Lakeshore District. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming in. Also, Stacey Purpera. She is the Native American Support and Title VI Coordinator. Good morning to you.
Morning. Thanks for inviting.
And we're able to get to the principal from Lakeshore High School out here with us as well, Dr. Katie Berner-Wallen. Thanks for joining us.
thank you for having us.
A pleasure. Let's start with the principal. What about this focus? There's a lot of events we're going to get into regarding Native American heritage during this conversation, and most certainly looking forward to talking about that. But what about a larger perspective of what, building an appropriate atmosphere for your Native American student population, what that's all about at Lakeshore?
One of the things that's so important to us is being able to shift our focus with our students and to be able to provide opportunities for students from the Seneca Nation within our school community. So making sure we offer Seneca language for students as soon as possible. So starting in 7th grade all the way up through their senior year, as well as providing elective courses like Native American Film Study. We also offer courses on culture as well that provide students with a better holistic understanding of what it means to be Native American, both for Native American students and also for students within our school community who are not from the nation.
This is a question maybe we better save for the end and the beginning, but how well do the populations of students merge? I mean, I know I did a show on the Thomas School yesterday and how the kids from the Thomas boarding school would go to Gowanda and to finish their education, and the type of racial prejudice that they would face there. Now, a lot of things were different then. The kids would be showing up in boarding school uniforms and things along those lines, and that was back in the 50s. Now we're here in the 2020s. But what about that? How do you gauge that? How do you see that situation?
Honestly, I feel like our kids really are just kids. They interact with each other of all races, of all kinds. Our students celebrate the things that make us the same and the things that make us different. And I generally feel like, and I don't know, maybe I'm in my office too much, but I feel like there's a sense of unity among all of our students. And then within our Native American community, there also is a sense of owning their responsibility to uphold their culture and to uphold the history and the stories from the nation as well.
I see some heads nodding here as well. Jordan, you have some thoughts there?
Like to add to what Dr. Berner-Wallen said, we sort of have that struggle every day to provide a sense of community and belonging and unity within a school district setting, like providing language as early as 7th grade. And it's difficult sometimes for our students to come into an institutionalized learning setting and sort of have their language and culture withheld from them until they reach 7th or 8th grade, when they can participate in Seneca language when they're at home, and they might have it within our community events. And we try to teach them to have some patience and to take some pride in whatever you may already know and bring that to the district and share it. You don't have to wait to be told what you can learn. To take some ownership, to take some pride in whatever it is within your family or your community, and share that with the district, with people who may not understand, and to kind of embolden them to be proud. Don't be shy. Don't be embarrassed. And to bring that with whatever opportunity they have, like Native American Heritage Month.
I'm going to probably reference this conversation I had about the Thomas boarding school a few times, but a big part of what that school and other boarding schools did is they tried to separate and really squelch that particular portion of culture for Native Americans. You use the word pride. I mean, do you sense kids are, I mean, I know how it was being a 13-year-old kid, I mean, it's, but I mean, do you sense or do you see elements of that, lights of that?
Or the sense I get growing up with that historical knowledge about my own grandparents, right? And at least I observe it, witness it in a lot of the students. They have a pride in the level of resiliency that they develop because of it. There is sort of a hidden shame, like, oh, we went through this and we were treated so terribly. But to know that they're also like, you're a survivor, that, you've seen some stuff and your family's worked hard to keep you alive and keep you thriving. And they're working to help continue, I don't want to say the assimilation process, but the self-integration, I like to refer to it.
Interesting.
Taking ownership of your education and your responsibility in partnership with the larger community around you. Facing the reality that, like, no, you're not going to live hidden, sheltered off on the reservation territory away from the world. If you want to thrive and you want the things that you want and you want to achieve your goals, you got to go out there, you got to take part and participate and learn to interact with a diverse group of people.
Something that I really encourage with my Native American students is to get involved. Join a club, join 2 clubs, join a sport, stay after every day with a teacher, get to know people. It makes the educational experience so much better, and it also creates more understanding from teachers as well.
It's also worth noting that a lot of the kids that are coming to Lakeshore have an option of other districts. We're talking about the Native American kids.
Correct.
They have options of other districts to go to. You mentioned how sports, Jordan, is maybe a little bit of a, for lack of a better term, a recruitment tool. That's probably not the right word to use.
At least the success of some of our sports programs has drawn the Native students from other districts. Not that we're trying to compete, but we just want to do our best to help provide our community with the opportunities that's going to help them get to college. So if that's playing in a better level of competition in a larger section or class, and get the opportunity to go be seen by coaches and scouts, and then, inspire them, like, no, it's possible. It's possible to go to college and still retain your cultural identity and go and participate. And so if we can provide that as well as we can for the entire community, not necessarily trying to compete with the other districts, but working in conjunction with them.
Right, and I would have to think that there might be some value to that for a young student who says, yeah, this is where I want to be, right? This, whether it's Lakeshore or Silver Creek or Gowanda, there might, I would think, again, some incentive for a student. I know how I felt when I went off to school in the morning. It wasn't necessarily much incentive there, just other than I had to do it, right? We want to talk about a couple of events that are coming up here. Actually, I've got quite a few, Stacey, that are coming up here at Lakeshore. But the one I want to just jump on right off the bat is the one that is coming up tomorrow, Wednesday.
Yes, tomorrow.
An Indigenous Makers Fair.
We are hosting
First one?
The very first Indigenous Makers Fair for our district. It's going to look like an open type of fair, mill around, visit 35 to 40 artisans from the region, make something, try a craft that you've never even seen before or knew how to do, try a game you've never tried, try archery, see some live hawks.
Live hawks.
Yes. It's going to be really fun, really engaging. In 2 hours, you can make a bunch of things, see a bunch of things, try something new.
What else? Like you said moccasins, I think.
Yeah,
what other makers might we have?
Yeah, we'll have some demonstrations. Someone making a pair of moccasins. We'll have a demonstration from Dr. Rodney Herring from Roswell, actually, making a wooden lacrosse stick. He'll be there with us. We have some corn husk dolls. You could do beading, learn about the Three Sisters, try some food samples. Yeah, all kinds of things.
And we were talking about one of the demonstrations. What was it? What was the one demonstration with the
hoop and javelin?
Hoop and javelin. Yeah. Explain that for me, please.
Oh, so one of the games that sort of comes from our culture, more of like a kid's game to train them for their hunting skills, was to make a hoop, maybe about a foot or so in diameter, out of a willow branch. And you could roll it across the ground, and you just practice trying to stop that hoop in its tracks with a spear, essentially. And it's fun, it's challenging. It's one of them cultural games that you don't realize is actually training you for survival, for hunting.
And you sound like you have experience actually doing this?
Oh, yeah.
Pretty good at it?
Let's say I teach language.
Very nice.
Speaking of hoops, I want to put
please.
in a little plug. We have some hoop dancers joining us as well.
Hoop dancers?
Yeah, it's a really interesting form of dancing. It's beautiful. They hold what appears to be hula hoops, but they're a little bit smaller. They make them into shapes. They put them on their body. This is a dance group that formed a little over a year ago. Their name is Hoops for Hope and Resilience. They formed really interestingly out of a class that Doris Sampson was teaching on the territory, and they formed this group because they've all had some sort of trauma. So all of the people in the group are at different points in their hoop dancing career, but I've seen them perform, and it's absolutely a beautiful sight. So you can not only watch them perform, but then they will let you try it as well.
Well, I'll pass on that part of myself as well. I want to steer away from and we'll get back to some of the other events that are going on, and also repeat some more information on the Indigenous Makers Fair. But Dr. Katie Berner-Wallen is the principal at Lakeshore High School. What about when it comes to integrating this Native American population, making it part of the student population? Is there training for teachers? Are there things that they have to be able to understand to make sure that everybody feels included?
So every year, as part of our orientation program for new teachers, one of our orientation days is on the Seneca Nation, and they sit through a day of training where they learn about cultural norms, and they learn about what trauma, what type of experiences these students may have had prior to coming to our district, as early as what happens when kids arrive in kindergarten, and expectations, and how culture and expectations within the nation might be different than cultural expectations in other parts of Angola and in other parts of our region. And so we kind of learn about some of those differences from people from the Seneca community. And that type of experience also carries on to what happens throughout our experience with students. We have JOM program, which is the Johnson O'Malley program,
Okay.
Which is a federally funded program where we are able to provide tutors and supports for students inside of our building. So from the moment a student arrives in kindergarten, or even in our pre-K program, although most of our students from the nation attend a pre-K program on the Seneca Nation, but from the moment they arrive as a Lakeshore student, they are provided with supports as students from the nation. So Johnson O'Malley program may provide them with additional resources for reading and for writing. They may provide them with study skills, focusing on executive function and building those skills that they need in order to be successful students. And it's built into their schedule. And we're fortunate enough that we have 2 staff members who provide a lot of that work within our elementary buildings in our middle school, and we also have the support at our high school. And some of it is counseling, some of it is community liaisoning, where they provide the support, or if for example, a student is struggling with attendance, we have our JOM support and our support staff for our Native American students. We'll go out to homes and say, hey, why aren't they coming? What can we do to get them here? Or what do you need? We noticed some things have been lacking. What do you need from us? And we are able then to build that sense of community for our students so that they know they're not alone, that we're able to provide them with those resources. And this year we have a new staff member who is providing us with a lot of education as well. Jacinta Garcia joined our team, and I'm not sure of what her title is because it has a lot of titles below it. So I'm passing this to Stacey.
Yeah, so Jacinta Garcia is like a Native American cultural resource.
Okay.
So K to 12, she's seeing individual needs or seeing where maybe there's a small bit that she can get involved in. Maybe she'll come teach a lesson. She's formed reading groups with elementary students who have been identified as just needing a little bit of extra support. And so she'll focus with maybe more Indigenous texts. If you see yourself in a book, you're more likely to want to read it. So she sees that need and helps meet that need with those students. She may just go to a social studies class and say, hey, where can I help? Or she's even gone as far as to have reached out to teachers, and teachers will say, hey, I'm going to teach this lesson on such and such a treaty. And Jacinta might find a student who has particular knowledge or interest in that and ask the student to help teach the class. When a student takes ownership, they will learn it more. Their classmates will respect them more. They'll enjoy the class more.
Just to jump back a little bit to you, Dr. Berner-Wallen, one of the items that you mentioned, and I'll open this up to all three of you. You mentioned how you have a day of training over at the Seneca Nation, and learning about some of the maybe trauma that some of these students have gone through. Are we seeing with the Native population, Native American population, different trauma than you might see from a young kid who grows up in Angola or whatever? Are there unique situations that we're dealing with here?
I would say, as the Seneca language teacher in my classroom, dealing directly with a lot of Native students all day long. Yes, but to the extent that it's occurring through the entire district, is in comparison to other non-Native students, that'd be a discussion.
Could you expand though on what types of?
For
as much as you
instance,
can, yeah.
Certainly our Native students are more comfortable socializing with each other. So when they come to Seneca language, it's difficult to keep a structured lesson because for them it's social hour. They really want to catch up with each other as to what's been going on in the day. They're trying to plan out the rest of their day. They're trying to help and console each other with whatever issues are going on in their lives. A lot of times we're talking about contemporary social issues within the Seneca community, the death of a prominent community member, political issues going on within the community. Because the community is so tight-knit and closely related, what might be a small issue to somebody in Angola has a lot of resonance within our community, and the students come to school and want to sort of have that resolve of what's going on. The best example is, of course, over the summer we lost our one of our religious centers, the Newtown Longhouse, burned in a accidental fire, and it just struck waves to not only our Native community on Seneca territory, but throughout Indigenous territories across New York State and Southern Ontario. So many other communities reached out to us how they could help, sent people and craftspeople, artisans, laborers, skilled tradesmen to come down and offer their help to help rebuild our longhouse. And within a couple of months, we had enough funds and enough help. We recently sort of dedicated, they say, or moved the fire for our rebuilt longhouse just last month.
Oh, wow.
And so it really struck a chord within our community to see the resilience of our people, the interconnectedness, the interreliance of the various communities that we might be either directly related to, or we just have strong social connections to. To see everybody reach out and the support that happened really sort of sparked a renewal in everybody's kind of pride within the community and our history of resilience as a community. So that was a big discussion we had in school. In the beginning, on the first day of school, the kids all wanted to know what happened. Why did it happen? What are we going to do? How are we going to fix it? Are they going to have ceremonies for the upcoming ceremonies during the midwinters and fall? And so those were the discussions we had for the first few days, just trying to help bring them that sort of spiritual guidance.
Do you think, do you have to be maybe, I don't want to say extra sensitive, but being prepared to note what might be happening with your Native students?
Absolutely. One of the things, I mean, it's pretty prominent in just high school in general,
Sure.
is there's that ripple effect where there's a death in a family and it impacts not just one kid, but 5 or 6 kids. But because of how small and how close-knit our students are from the Seneca Nation, one death might represent a loss for maybe 25, 30 kids instead of 2 kids or maybe a small family, because, it might just have been, I shouldn't say just have been, because
Of course.
minimizes somebody's life, but it might have been somebody's grandmother, but that grandmother also took in this other family and also helped babysit this person's children or provided support for this family in their time of need. And so there's always this general sense whenever there's a crisis or there's a death on the Seneca Nation, it's something we're all made aware of because we want to make sure we can provide support to all of the students who are with the domino effect of one death and its general impact over a general population. This summer, we also had a horrific car accident that caused the death of a former student from Salamanca who had just graduated and her young child. And she was a new mom, and there were at least in our summer program 5 or 6 kids who had a relationship with her because our students often have strong relationships with kids who live in Salamanca because it's all part of the same group. And so these students were really affected by this student's death because she was so close in age to them and related to them that we ended up sending an email to a variety of people saying, hey, just want to let you know this is what happened. You just tread lightly. The student may need some extra support. And that's one of the incredible things about this community as a whole is that we often will share this information, and then the outpouring of support for one kid who's struggling is incredible because nobody wants to see a kid struggle.
Right. And just to expand on that, then, we're talking about the whole school community gets behind it.
Yep, we get behind, we rally, we find ways to support. I think just not even in times of need, but in times of greatness with our lacrosse team, as an example. Jordan's one of our coaches for our lacrosse team.
I just help out. I just help out when I can.
When they made it to the quarterfinals, the number of Lakeshore fans in the stands in Rochester was incredible. And it wasn't just kids from the nation, it was kids all from the entire school community. And when we lost the next day at school, there was a very clear sense of loss for all of us, not just those kids.
Wow, that's interesting. I mean, I would think from a principal standpoint, whether you were at Lakeshore or somewhere else, merging of, building that type of culture inside your district has to be very both. I mean, it's got to be a priority no matter where you're at, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, trying to find a way to expand that, but seeing, differing groups come together and all of a sudden merging as one like that has got to be very satisfying, I would think. Yeah. Let's take a time out. We're going to talk more about this, of a lot of different things coming up at Lakeshore during this particular month, which is Native American Heritage Month. We'll be back with more. This is What's Next on WBFO.
Do you hear that? That's the lullaby of Broadway. Join me, Anthony Chase, on a memorable trip to New York City, January 22nd through the 26th. We'll see 5 hit Broadway shows, Kimberly Akimbo and Juliet, Back to the Future, A Beautiful Noise, and Shucked. And we'll eat at Sardi's. Transportation, hotel, and select meals are also included. Space is limited, so don't delay. Call 716-630-3731 or visit wned.org/travel.
Hi, I'm Christina. I love exploring the world around me, and I have behind-the-scenes VIP tickets to some of the most exciting places and people in Western New York. And you can come along with me from wherever you are. Let's go! A new series you can watch on WNED PBS, the Buffalo Toronto Public Media YouTube channel, and on PBS Learning Media nationwide.
So let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go!
You're listening to What's Next, our place to discuss the important issues of our communities of Western New York and Southern Ontario. We want to hear from you. Click on the Talk to Us option in the WBFO app, and we will work to get your questions or comments on the air. Do you have a story or concern that we should be addressing? Email us using whatsnext@wbfo.org. Together we'll have the conversations that are needed. This is WBFO, your NPR station.
And welcome back to What's Next. With us from Lakeshore High School, we have Stacey Purpera. Stacey is the Native American Support and Title VI Coordinator at Lakeshore. Also with us, Jordan Cooke Sr. He teaches the Seneca language at Lakeshore and also the principal of Lakeshore, Dr. Katie Berner-Wallen. what brought us together here, a lot of different events that are coming up at Lakeshore for this Native American Heritage Month. We talked a little bit about the Indigenous Makers Fair that's coming up tomorrow, but you've got a couple of other events coming up here, Stacey. You got quite a few, actually, I got to tell you. But here's one, November 15th, Rock Your Mocks.
That's right. It's a national day, actually.
Is it really a national day?
Rock Your Mocks. Lots of people have traditionally made moccasins or moccasin slippers, but if you have none of those, rock your Crocs, which are very popular, or your crazy socks. So everyone can participate and just show unity.
Okay, so just inviting the kids, teachers.
Everyone.
Teachers love to dress up,
Teachers
generally
do.
speaking.
Teachers do, and mocks are very comfortable.
You're gonna wear your moccasins.
I got several pairs. I got my Doc Martens. They're sort of like modern moccasins. I wear those quite a bit.
Yeah, this is what I wear all the time too here, as a matter of fact. All right, so Rock Your Mocks is November 15th. November 17th, it's Middle School Fun Indigenous Theme Day for your kids.
Our JOM teacher, Miss Parker, and our
JOM?
Johnson O'Malley.
Johnson O'Malley, I'm sorry.
And our Title VI homeschool liaison, Miss John, have planned this evening event where the theme will be an Indigenous theme. There's going to be actually a fashion show. So some traditional outfits that girls and boys may wear. And then there will be a lacrosse shoot, and I imagine some other crafts and games too.
All right, very good. And then elementary school socials.
Yeah, so a social is a good way to just get together and kind of listen to music, sing, dance. There's some social dancing that takes place, and whoever's emceeing the event will lead that, and they'll teach all of the elementary kids exactly how to do the dance, or maybe they'll get to try it. And at some point, every elementary kid will be on their feet dancing, maybe the rabbit dance or anything.
and none of these events so far have I heard mention of corn soup. We're going to have corn soup at any of these things, or no? No?
We were trying. Of course, it's a lengthy
It's a lot goes into
but
that.
We are going to demonstrate some of what we've done within our high school classrooms for our White Corn project.
Oh, is that right?
Fall,
yeah, because that would be something that would get people. I mean, at least one of us would come into the door for that. That's for sure. Let's talk then a little bit about teaching the Seneca language. This is a great development. I mean, for the most part, your students are kids from the nation.
Most of our students are enrolled members of the Seneca Nation.
Okay.
There's a small portion who are from members of other nations.
All right.
So we have Seneca, Cayuga, Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, like myself. But a lot of what we identify specifically as Seneca is also very, very similar to what the language and history and culture of those other nations as well. So we have an opportunity not just to talk about Seneca culture and history, we can talk closely about Cayuga history, Mohawk history, and the language as well. And we'll make the comparisons between the difference in linguistics. And a lot of the students enjoy that, being able to get the sense that, there's a lot more to our culture than just one way to say something.
So you're able to identify these connections then between the different native languages. How similar are they? I mean, that's obviously a subjective question, but I mean, or is it some work to bring it all together?
I guess the best way to describe it is Seneca is the most difficult because of the linguistic changes that have taken place over the last couple centuries from European influences. Going back to the history of the Western New York area was what they call the Erie Triangle, a strong area of trade during the fur trade era, during Western expansion. So you had a lot of other different nations coming through, speaking their languages. You had a lot of other European nations coming through, and that influence shows in the morphological changes of the Seneca language as it's spoken today in relation to Cayuga, Onondaga, Oneida, and Mohawk. We have to sort of go back and reconstruct the words, and we can see how they actually are really similar to Mohawk when we can kind of break it down linguistically.
Again, this it's going to be really difficult for you to answer this, but just how difficult is it to learn Seneca?
We've heard the linguists that we work with from various universities say it's probably the most difficult.
Really?
Yeah, because of the amount of changes that have occurred, you have to go step by step to,
Is there one word or one phrase or one identification that stands out as just a great example of what you're talking about here?
We have in Seneca language what we call a nasal A. It's an A.
We've got that here in Western New York, don't we?
Yeah. And that might be the influence of a lot of other people that are still here today, right? We have a sound in Seneca that we refer to as the nasal A, but it's a remnant of like an R or a trilling R in other languages. So, what's an example?
I kind of put you on the spot with that. Sorry about that.
Drawing a blank.
That's all right.
Ungwadat suyo is like we're fortunate, right?
Okay.
And that ungwada is the remnant of R. And that's a subtle sound, I know. But it's only us in Seneca really have it.
Okay.
They still have it in a lot of the Cooke language, not so much in Onondaga or Oneida and Mohawk, which still have that R sound.
Right. And you did not grow up with
No, I
the
grew
Seneca
up originally
language.
in the Onondaga Nation territory south of Syracuse. I grew up speaking Onondaga, attending the reservation school out there. We had a class specifically for Seneca and culture. So 2 sections out of our day were specifically devoted to language and culture, apart from math, science, and English. So it was a huge culture shock to come to Western New York and attend a public school where, and I hate to use that buzzword, but our culture and our language was marginalized.
Right.
We were fortunate to try and go to JOM or Title VI and hang out there, and maybe the teacher or tutor who was there might have something we could refer to look at, learn language or culture.
So much more expansive
Yep.
now.
Yep.
Yeah.
So much more expansive in all the districts and what we're able to provide to our students to help familiarize them with the language and culture.
I saw you nodding over there, Principal Berner-Wallen. Again, kind of back to a general question about that, I can't ask you to go back to the history of how this all evolved in Lakeshore District or anything along those lines. But at the same time, I want to try to phrase this the right way to get an expansive answer. Just the idea that at one time there was next to nothing being taught in schools when it came to Native American culture and most certainly the Seneca culture, and now that is changing. Is this something that is a change that you see as a benefit to all students?
Oh, absolutely. I think when anyone gets to see themselves in the literature that's being taught, in what happens in a classroom, and that their experiences are not just talked about but respected and questions are asked so that people can better understand them, it creates a shift in their sense of community and their sense of belonging. This year, I'm so excited. One of our English teachers is teaching a new text with her freshmen called The Firekeeper's Daughter, and it's a text about a Native American group out of Michigan, and the students are absolutely loving it. And in addition to that, she's made some adjustments and is teaching some books that are that cover things like gun violence and cover a more urban experience. So although our kids are on the border of rural, it's an experience for some of these kids that is new, but for other kids who have moved here from either from the city or from other experiences, gun violence is probably not something that's completely foreign to them. And so being able to create an experience that meets a kid where they are so that they feel valued and they feel like they can contribute and that it's an exciting piece. As a former English teacher, there's always that idea of dead white guys, and that's all that we taught. And that doesn't represent who we are as a people and who we are as a student population. And so instead, bringing in this new literature, when a kid comes to me and I see one of the books on the table, then when we sit down and talk, and I'll say, hey, what do you think about this? And to see them clutch that book to their chest because they're having that beautiful relationship with a book. They see either themselves or they see something that they relate to in comparison to, no offense to The Great Gatsby, but I don't see a lot of our children relating to The Great Gatsby.
I love The Great Gatsby.
I do too, but it's not necessarily a life that they understand.
Sure.
But to see The Firekeeper's Daughter, and there's mystery elements within this, and there's drug elements within it, not that we are a community revolving around drugs, but there's drug activity, and there's this mystery
Well, that's
about
a real
who's,
reality
exactly.
for
It's the
children,
reality of today's society.
Sure.
And the kids are absolutely loving the fact that we're finding things to connect with them.
General question, and I'll let all three of you kind of take this in any way you want, but so we have this opportunity now for the Native American kids to learn the language, to do other things that are culturally significant and inclusive. Is it bringing the overall student population together in a certain way? We talked about the lacrosse team in its own way, but do we see kids who, and you have a great understanding of this, who 30 years ago probably didn't care for whatever reason, didn't care what your tradition was? Do you see that sense that there's that needle's moving a little bit?
Oh, certainly. My wife graduated from Lakeshore. I graduated from Gowanda, so we have, together we both kind of see the difference in the way the districts themselves have evolved their relationship with the Seneca community. And growing up, still working within this environment, we see the gradual change of the level of involvement of the graduates as they go on and they become involved in things like the gaming industry and its effects within the economic community of Western New York, and to see the sort of pride that our people have to work at that level of professionalism and involvement with what's going on, than to just
be an add-on, for lack of a better term. Yeah. Stacey,
I can say that I think that we are trying really hard to make our students, all students, see themselves every day in that building they walk into, whether it be in art on the walls, in classrooms, in text, in math class, whatever the case may be. I think teachers are really aware, more so now than ever, just because of more training that we've had. Make your students see themselves and they'll want to be there.
Okay. All right.
Right. Like additionally, just to see not see our students come out of high school and not only go to like a professional work environment in the gaming industry or wherever else, but to see them come back to enter our traditional programs, our traditional language programs, the Language Nest, the Sully Huff Heritage Center, and the adult immersion classes, to see them come back and want to participate and become teachers or cultural instructors within the community itself, and the sort of advanced knowledge they have going into it, that they're not starting from scratch. And it just becomes a reinforcing, positive feedback loop does work to our benefit,
Did you have something you wanted to add, Principal?
I think there's also this innate curiosity in kids that they want to learn and understand what they don't know. And we see that. Like, you'll see a student ask questions in a U.S. history class, or we now have a civics course that we teach. And the students just want to understand each other better. And it's not in a sense of, I want to be better than, but I need to understand you and where you come from so that we can bond and we can find a way to move through whatever these things that are happening. And I think our kids are really good at that. They want to be with people who are like them, but also understand and be with people who are different than them so that they can grow. And I'm so proud of our kids for that.
It's great to hear that, and I think sometimes for kids it's easier than adults, right? I mean, they're not as set in their ways. I'm curious. I'm going to throw this again, another type of question out to all three of you. And you can take it or not, but is there a conversation or types of words, things along those lines, now that you're so immersed now in your district with trying to make sure that this Native American student population is included, where you hear things being said a certain way or words that are used that just are like fingernails on a chalkboard. Do they still have chalkboards at school? But anybody want to take that on as like you hear this like, we got to get that out of the conversation. That can't be part of the dialogue because it's not helping us advance.
I know I have worked hard to correct people when they use the word res. I say the nation, the territory, because that's based on my understanding and my learning, that's what we need to call it, is the Seneca Nation, the Seneca Territory, rather than the reservation, because there's a connotation associated with what a reservation is that is negative and doesn't represent the Seneca people. So it's something when I'm having conversations just in general public and somebody says, oh, I went to the res and got gas. Oh, you went to the nation. And finding polite ways to just rephrase that instead of saying you are wrong, but just providing them with better words so that they're better educated for the next time they have that conversation.
Stacey?
Sure.
Yeah.
I would say I started at Lakeshore in 2008, and you would still hear kids in the hall saying, oh, that Indian. So I don't hear that at all anymore. Maybe just from old people, really, who just have that idea.
Elders.
Yes, the elders, who have that idea within them. But you don't even necessarily hear someone saying, oh, that native kid. They just call them by their name.
Right.
And that's such a difference.
Okay, that's great. That's
Yeah.
maybe the best news I've heard in a long time. Jordan, you got some perspective on that?
Similarly, I always encourage even the native students when they talk about a non-native, oh, that white kid. It's like, I'm sure they have a name,
Nice.
And to get our own native students familiar and comfortable with opening up and starting those kind of conversations where they can become friendly and sociable and cordial with individuals they're not familiar with.
Okay.
Oh, well, go find out their name. Go ask them. Don't be afraid to talk to that teacher. Ask them. They'd rather you ask than to sit there quietly and they're wondering if you need help or not. They can't help you if they don't know. So just teaching our native students to be comfortable engaging in simple conversations to make themselves accessible in terms of sharing who they are, getting to know how to communicate.
Let's take another time out on what's next, and we'll come back with our final moments as we continue our conversation. Here it is Native American Heritage Month, and we have 3 members of the Lakeshore High School family with us talking about how things are developing inside their school building as well. We'll take a time out. This is What's Next on WBFO.
Did you know that WNED PBS is always working on great new local shows for you to watch? Documentaries like Kleinhand's Gift to Buffalo, which tells the story of Buffalo's music hall.
The hall is very intimate, and that intimacy makes everyone who comes in here feel a part of our family.
Fun and educational series like Compact Science.
Believe it or not, peppers are technically fruits.
And Shakespeare's greatest hits, featuring some of his best-known soliloquies and monologues.
We are such stuff as dreams are made of.
You can watch them all on our website at wned.org/local shows. While you're there, check out the show pages and mini websites for additional content such as bonus features, photo galleries, and lesson plans. Find it all at wned.org/local shows.
Birds, whether common or rare, delight me. That's what our new Now We're Birding and Enjoying Nature Club is all about. Oh yes, and the best is being with people who are also interested in wildflowers, animals, and of course, birds. Come along with us, won't you, Peter Hall and me, Stratton Rawson, as we lead monthly excursions to Tift or Rhinestone Woods Nature Preserves. To sign up, go to wned.org/birding.
You're listening to What's Next, our place to discuss the important issues of our communities of Western New York and Southern Ontario. We want to hear from you. Click on the Talk to Us option in the WBFO app, and we will work to get your questions or comments on the air. Do you have a story or concern that we should be addressing? Email us using whatsnext@wbfo.org. Together we'll have the conversations that are needed. This is WBFO, your NPR station.
And welcome back to What's Next. Today we are talking with 3 members of the Lakeshore High School family. We have the principal, Dr. Katie Berner-Wallen. We also have Jordan Cooke Sr. Jordan teaches the Seneca language at Lakeshore High School, and Stacey Purpera. She is a Native American Support and Title VI Coordinator. That's a big title there. As we coming down to our final minutes here, for sure, Jordan, I'm very intrigued by your experience. Obviously, just by hearing you talk, you are deeply invested in life with the nation, and it sounds like you have a lot. You have a lot of stock in these kids that come to that school, right?
Yeah. Like I said, I grew up in a different environment than sort of what the Seneca Nation has. Where I grew up was a traditional government chieftain system. My mother was a traditional title holder. She's a clan mother. Like I said, the school I went to had classes specifically for language and culture right from kindergarten. And when we moved here to Seneca Territory, and I attended the new public school that I went to, it was culture shock to sort of have that part of my identity put to the side and to focus on Western academics. And to see the importance that it had, not just on me and my siblings when we made that transition, to have that base of cultural knowledge. I feel fortunate that the Seneca community itself sort of invested in me, provided me with opportunities to better myself that I may not have otherwise continued to attain if I had stayed in the traditional system of the Onondaga Nation. And I feel like I sort of not owe that to them, but I would like to give back to the community in a way that provided me opportunities that I wouldn't have otherwise had because of the knowledge base that I came here with. And so to see a lot of my peers grow up and they move on to their careers and their various aspects in their lives, and I'll be able to help their children that are peers with my children, to see them interacting on the lacrosse field, in the classroom, at the daycare, at the Head Start, is really rewarding to see sort of the fruits of our labors over the years, and to sort of uphold my own family's tradition of educating. My mother's a certified New York State teacher. My grandparents and all my uncles were what they call showmen. You know, they traveled around and demonstrated the songs and dances in various capacities, whether it's at fairs or colleges or other public gatherings for decades, you know, as a part of the Erie County Fair, the New York State Fair. So to try to continue that tradition within my family, but take it to the next level. Now we're trying to incorporate it into the everyday lives of the students at the school, not just at the one-off show, you know, during the year. We're trying to help them, teach them to incorporate that in their everyday lives, and to help them develop their decision-making process when they consider their traditional values, and to have that to become a part of it, so that they can find some self-guidance, some self-reliance, apart from just waiting for somebody else to hand it to them or to figure it out for them. So, you know, and I feel fortunate that again, my experience has taught me the importance of that cultural background knowledge, all the way back through things our families experienced in boarding schools, all the way back to Corn Planter and Mary Jemison. You know, really knowing your lineage helps to know what your family went through and to what you can do, contribute to the next generation. You
just went across a couple of centuries of history right there in a couple of seconds. Is that something that you took personally, that you wanted to learn on your own, or is it something that was like you said, your mother was a certified teacher? You know, a little of both. You know, being able to be exposed to that amount of real history at such a young age does kind of put that hook in you to I really want to understand that. I really want to figure out why it's that way. And so when those opportunities arise, you find a new book, or you listen to a new speaker, or a new YouTube, or a new audio book or something that helps to explain history and how societies interact, sociology, anthropology. All those things interest me, to figure out how our people came to be who we are today because of the things that have happened to us in the past, and how we can use that knowledge to inform our thinking and our actions in the future. And do you find your students are taking the bait there a little bit? They're following. I find I have a really strong relationship with quite a few students who come in and they ask me life questions. Mr. Cooke, what do you think I should do? You know, me and my mom are arguing about this, or me and my dad did that. You know, what do you think? And I'm like, you really should be talking to somebody at guidance about this. But I'll help you the best I can. I was going to ask about guidance, and I'll turn this over to Principal Berner-Wallen. What about that? I mean, do the guidance or counselors at school, do they need to have a special understanding when it comes to the Native American students?
I think absolutely. Understanding the history of a student's family and understanding the cultural shifts are really important. Our school is working really hard to be trauma-informed, where we take a look at not just who a kid is, but their history and understanding them holistically. And so when you look at some of the research on trauma, generational trauma can have a significant impact on the next generation. And so we're dealing with children who are products who were in boarding schools. And so it's important to understand that in order to be able to support and treat that.
Do you know how that? Do you have an understanding of how that maybe manifests in the modern, or a kid that's in Lakeshore right now? The Thomas boarding school closed in 1957. Yet you say that, as best you understand, there's still that generational impact.
There's some research on it. I'm still learning the research.
Sure.
I'm going to look at my peers to see if they can help me with any of what it says. I know what the nerd says of myself, but what have you read as well?
Yeah, so trauma actually acts on the brain. It causes a shift in your brain and the chemistry of your brain. And so if you are a product of someone who experienced trauma, historical trauma, it stays with you. So you may get a kid in your class who starts doing something wild. You're like, what did I do? Maybe you didn't do anything. Maybe they heard something. Maybe they read something and just triggered them. And so then you have to figure out how to de-escalate that situation and bring them back down. And there's significant research out there. And it's really important that teachers understand that. Like, just give them a minute. They need to just take a minute. And so I think Lakeshore does a really good job of that.
And Jordan, I think I saw out of the corner of my eye, you're nodding your head as I was asking. Yeah.
We do. We see it every day, and sometimes it manifests in more extreme ways than others. The students come to school with certain behaviors they don't even realize that they exhibit on a daily basis, that, a lot of not regular teaching staff, but they're unfamiliar with. Their training doesn't cover that area.
Right.
So those students come in, they're sort of set off with a little incident at home in the morning, and it just compounds throughout the day. It's just reiterating in their brain. They want to process it and get rid of the stress and frustration, but they don't realize that that's the issue that triggered them in the morning. Maybe a disagreement with mom or dad, or something they overheard on a bus, and then it comes to school, and then they act out later in the day. So we just constantly try to help do sort of those social emotional check-ins. Hey, what's going on? You don't seem like yourself today. How you feeling? And not even so openly like, what are you doing? It's like, what's going on? Oh, did you get that assignment done? How come, you really should work on it. And then that kind of can lead into, well, I did this last night and I got in trouble and I didn't do this, so I didn't even get to focus on it today. I was like, okay. And even that little instant of them getting the validation that they're suffering through something is enough to for them to pack it away and okay, I'll be all right.
Okay. We're winding down here and we started with this. I want to make sure that we finish with this. And this is the Indigenous Makers Fair that is taking place tomorrow.
Tomorrow night, 5 to 7, Lakeshore High School, athletic entrance.
Okay. What are we going to see?
in.
I'm afraid a lot of folks are just tuning in here.
Yeah, you can come join our Maker Movement. This is an Indigenous...
Maker Movement?
Yeah, this is an Indigenous-themed Maker Fair. But come learn about Indigenous culture through art. You can try something new that you've never tried before. You can take some crafts home that you make. You may get to start it and finish it, or you may have to finish it at home. You can try hoop and javelin. You can try social dancing. You can try hoop dancing. You can just come and take it all in and just be an observer. So we've got an opportunity for anyone right on up, any age, from young to old, and then have dinner at the food trucks that'll be there.
But you're not promising me corn soup. That would be a great idea for a food truck. Only can serve it once a month, though. But
we're going to have Buffalo Burger Brothers
and
specialties, and that's wood-fired pizzas.
Do you have an alum coming back for a special event? Is that tomorrow, or the alum from Penn State?
It's the day before our Thanksgiving break. So she's coming home for break from Penn State, and she contacted me. She was a former student, asked if she could come talk to our Native students about what her experiences have been. She actually was instrumental in starting a new Indigenous club at Penn State. I imagine there's not a lot of Indigenous people at Penn State, so she has kind of carved her way, and she's made it a place that feels comfortable to her. So it's important to hear from people who aren't too far removed from your age and what are their experiences, and put yourself in their shoes and think, I could do that.
We're winding down here with just about 90 seconds or so to go. I'll just toss it around. Maybe a little final thought as we talk about Native American Heritage Month. Dr. Katie Berner-Wallen, How about for you? What do you see in this month? I mean, it's been around for a long time, but it seems to be gaining a little bit of more of a general acceptance, I guess, for lack of a better term.
I think the students being curious and being curious about people who are different or the same as you, and using that to build your own nuggets of knowledge and store those in your pocket for when you need them later, is one of the things that I always take away from Native American Heritage Month.
And Stacey Purpera, what about for you?
Sure. I see it in our school as a celebration of culture, but it's also important to remember that Native American people are Native American every day, so we can celebrate their culture daily.
I see you nodding your head there, Jordan. Your
yeah,
thoughts?
I mean, that's exactly it. Just to reiterate what they said is it's an opportunity for all the various sort of nuanced areas of our community to showcase themselves, to showcase what it is special about their family or their community to not just a school district, but to the larger community as well, and to also remind our own students, your cultural identity is who you are all the time. It's not just this one time a month.
And how's that Lakeshore lacrosse team going to do this year?
Oh, better than ever.
Very nice. Well, I want to thank our guests, Stacey Purpera, also Jordan Cooke Sr., Dr. Katie Berner-Wallen from the Lakeshore High School, here talking with us on Native American Heritage Month. This has been What's Next on WBFO and WBFO HD1 Buffalo, WOLN Olean, and WUBJ Jamestown.